Hello everybody, welcome to the Chase with Jace. Join me as actually a familiar face on some other shows for us at Gridiron Football, but making his first appearance on the Chase with Jace is our own Allison. So Alex, thank you for joining me here on the Chase with Jace, and you're probably wondering why is Alex joining the Chase with Jace. I know he covers Southern and covers high school football. Well, actually, Alex got to see more LSU football than I did last week. He got to see a couple of practices. I had to go on some Gridiron Football official business, so Alex filled in for me, and graciously so, appreciate that, and cover some LSU football. And we'll get a chance to talk to him, and as he gives us his thoughts about what he thought about the Tigers. So Alex, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, happy to be here. Glad to be here. I'm kind of, I'm hitting the all three, legs of the tripod, right? I got the ballin' in the boot experience. I have a Player of the Week, and now I'm here on Chase with Jace. Finally, all of our big major shows. I'm finally making an appearance. So, happy to be here. Really happy for the experience, getting a chance to watch a couple of LSU spring practices. This is my first time ever doing that. That was really enjoyable. It's a really professional environment. They're really kind. They're very accommodating, very, very professional. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, so this is my first chance to do all of this, and I'm happy to be here, and we can kind of just get into all of the takeaways.
Yeah, absolutely. You were able to see two practices. I was able to see one, but in that one practice, didn't really see a whole lot. But was able to talk to a couple players after. We should get some coverage for y'all guys coming on our website, gridironfootballusa.com. Some exclusive interviews. Got a chance to talk with Chris Hilton. Got a chance to talk with Garrett Nussmeier as well. So we'll have some coverage of that for y'all on our website, gridironfootballusa.com. But Alex, let's go talk about it. Big year for Brian Kelly, entering year number 4, and this is the time of year with LSU fans. You know what they expect. They expect national championships. You got the expanded college football playoff now, so they're expecting to be contending for a playoff spot. And year number 4 is a big year. You return Garrett Nussmeier back at the quarterback position. You have the number 1 transfer portal class coming in right now, so a lot of big expectations for the Tigers. And from the first week of spring football, they just finished their first full week. What have you been able to see from them?
Yeah, the first week we talked about the expectations, and I said that the whole facility felt really professional. The team felt professional. That was my big takeaway. That throughout that first week, and that's difficult to do when you have so many transfers, right? You want to keep that culture of high school recruits, the main culture of your team, and so you want to, especially when you bring in all the transfers, keeping that culture is really difficult. But it seems like, from our perspective, that they're able to do that so far. There's not a lot of talking during the practices. There's not a lot of goofing around from what I've seen. It feels like a business trip, a business meeting, what they're doing every day. They're acting like grown adults, treating what they're doing as difficult work, and that's the sort of thing that a team with the kind of expectations that this LSU team has, it's what you want to see this early in the spring. So that is a really big positive indication. And that number 1 transfer portal class is already making an impact. Lots of names already getting, it's their first time getting reps, right? And some of them are already getting chances with the first team offense and the first team defense, whether that's the 3 wide receivers who got through the portal, Dustin Hill, Nick Anderson, and Varian Brown, whether that's Bauer Sharp, who it feels like, Trey'Dez Green is the big, after the monster game against Baylor and all the hype that he had going into it, coming from Zachary, that he's a really, he's going to be the number 1 tight end for the team, the heir apparent in some ways to Mason Taylor.
Right.
And he's going to be on the field all the time. And he looked the part. Absolutely. He had so I apologize, I'm kind of bouncing around, but on Saturday we got a little bit of glimpse of competition and one-on-one stuff. After the 20-minute viewing period ended for photo and video, he made this crazy one-handed catch that just feels very Trey'Dez.
Oh yeah.
So he's going to be on the field all the time. But Bauer Sharp, they worked 2 tight end sets a lot with that first team offense because he's earning spots on the field. He's earning playing time. So he's making an impact. The wide receivers are making an impact. Mansour Lane has been making a lot of good plays. We're going to see Patrick Payton on the edge. So all of these names, these really big names, they're already getting chances with the first team, getting a little bit of that taste of the first team offense or first team defense. And we're going to see that grow throughout the spring as they get more time with the team. And I think that's going to be really exciting. This is a team that acts like they have those big expectations.
And you talked about it, right? A lot of newcomers coming in, a lot of transfers, freshmen that are supposed to be instant impact guys, and I could tell this year from what I saw in the trenches that these guys are starting to look like the guys that you expect, from LSU.
Yeah.
So, and you saw for the transfer portal class, you talk about the defensive line, right? Patrick Payton stuff is really the big name, right? Everybody talks about. Jack Pyburn's been also getting a lot of looks. He was also a transfer from the SEC. It's crazy you see a lot of these now that they're coming from the SEC, their own conference. But Jack Pyburn last year was at Florida. Now he's over here at LSU. Jamari Payton as well. Jamari Butler, I would say from Nebraska. He's another defensive end coming in. So you're building some depth there on the defensive line, on the defensive front. So that's really encouraging as well. And really in the backfield, the defensive backfield. I was really impressed. I've only seen one practice so far, but Mansour DeLon, he's looking like the part of an SEC defensive back. And then let's just get started on DJ Pickett. He is a freak over there. He's long range, and from what I've heard, from what you're able to put, that he had himself a really good outing in that Saturday practice.
Yeah, the big takeaway from we only got to see like 15 minutes of it. Mm-hmm. We got some competition, some one-on-ones, a couple of team plays, but not a whole lot. My biggest takeaway was that the defensive backfield, the secondary, looked really good. And there's a less positive takeaway to take from that, I wasn't the one keeping track of this, but I heard it from someone else that Garrett Nussmeier in that one-on-one period went 5 for 16. Mm-hmm. And that's not very good. That's very good for the defense. It's not good for the offense. And for Brian Kelly, one of his big things he talked about in the first practice I went to during that press conference was, I was unlucky enough to get to see, not a thing against Brian Kelly, great to see him, but you got the players, right? You got to talk to Garrett and Chris Hilton. But in that press conference, he talked about how important it was for Garrett to get reps with the wide receivers and just to be on the same page. The chemistry is more important than any kind of specific technical development from Garrett at this point. He just needs to be on the same page. I think there's a lot of room to grow on that front with spring ball, and I think I'll be excited to see your takeaways as you get to see on Tuesday. You're going to get that full practice,
right? To
see the takeaways of how they grow throughout the spring and how that's going to lead into the summer and the fall. But the defense looks really good. The one-on-ones, you talked about DJ Pickett, Mansour DeLon, the Virginia Tech transfer, the guy. We saw Ashton Stamps already. Mm-hmm. A lot of these safeties looked good, and Brian Kelly talked about that at the press conference. And that led into continuing for them to look good during the practice after we left. But from what we saw, the DBs looked on point. They were making PBUs. They were in position. And I think that's really promising from a Blake Baker defense that there's been endless discussion about how bad that 2023 defense was.
Yeah.
Terrible. 2024, Blake Baker comes in, year one, and they look a lot better. Lots of progress, but you're still not there yet.
Right.
Now, hopefully we're going to see growth back to what a traditional LSU defense looks like. That's the hope. And I think we got some promising signs that we might be heading in that direction, hopefully.
Yeah, we talked about defensively, right? Well, since I've been there from the beginning, the one-on-ones is encouraging for the defense standpoint because guarantee that first year, the DBs were not even in the picture one-on-ones. It helps when you have guys like Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. Those are the receivers you're going up against. But DBs were not even in the picture. Now, last year, I saw some improvement. The receivers actually won a lot of the battles, but the DBs were there. They were in tight coverage, and Kyron Lace would win like a one-on-one ball, but they were there. That was promising. So the fact that you're saying that the defenders are actually winning these one-on-one matchups, that's definitely a sign. That's a positive sign. Spring football in the fall when we go to these practice reports, you're going to be happy with something, and you're going to be unhappy with the other thing. It's just the nature of the beast, right? So it looks like the defense is winning early on, but you return a quarterback like Garrett Nussmeier, these big-time weapons. We saw their chemistry and what they're able to do last year, especially late in the season. So maybe it's a best of best case scenario really for both sides of the ball as you look more into the spring football. Now, let's really talk about the offensive side of the football, and everybody wants to talk offense, right? So, no question about, we know no quarterback controversy here. We know who the quarterback's going to be is Garrett Nussmeier. Now the question going into the offseason would be, who's the backup quarterback? So looks from very on, we know who that's going to be, and it's going to be the Mississippi State transfer.
Yeah, so Michael Van Buren has been taking all the QB2 reps, and I think we got an indicator of where things are heading on Saturday, because one of the big storylines going into spring football was the position change for Juwan Johnson, right?
Right.
Of course, and you've covered Juwan Johnson for a long time. You called one of his games. Everyone knows him. Total touchdown record. Just got broken by Dartes, but total touchdown record.
Yep.
One of the most successful quarterbacks in Louisiana high school history. He was playing wide receiver, running back, DB last year, all that sort of stuff. Moves to quarterback, and we're like, okay, is he going to compete for that QB2 job? That's not really where this looks to be heading. Michael Van Buren has SEC experience already. He looks like the guy that if Garrett goes down, we feel a little bit more comfortable with where the ship is heading if he has to fill in. And Juwan Johnson on Saturday didn't have the no contact jersey on. He was wearing a white jersey, so he was, even though he was still taking most of his reps as a quarterback, as the third quarterback, he also got some reps in at wide receiver, catching some passes from Garrett, catching some passes from Michael. And so it looks like Juwan Johnson's mostly there just to be another arm and to be that third quarterback for now, especially when we're awaiting Colin Hurley's potential return.
Yeah, exactly. And that's going to be a big thing. That another wrinkle into it with the Colin Hurley, coming back once he arrives back with the football team, still recovering from the car accident earlier in January, I believe. Now, we talk about DJ Pickett defensively, right? That's the big freshman guy everybody's looking at defensively. Now, offensively, everybody wants to know about Harlem Berry, and I got to see Harlem Berry in practice as well, getting a lot of reps and getting a lot of looks. And it looks like Brian Kelly was even asked about it, right? He was asked about, Caden Durham after the season he had last year. Of course, he's supposed to be a major guy. Caleb Jackson, where does he fit in this room? That's going to be a question in the offseason too. But he also mentioned Harlem Berry and how he's been able to work with this offense. So that's going to be another talk about speed. We'll talk a lot about speed in a minute, but this is another playmaker that can definitely bring that speed element to the offense.
That was one of the most interesting takeaways I had from the Saturday press conference. He gets asked a question about specifically, the reporter asks Caden Durham, Caleb Jackson, what does that RB room look like?
Right.
With those two guys in particular. And Brian Kelly made a point to include Harlem Berry in that mix.
Yep.
To me, that indicates that I think they're projecting Harlem to be a guy that's getting first-team reps, that's a part of that first team by the time we get to the fall, and it's going to be a true committee. That Caden Durham's going to be the lead guy.
Yeah.
He's going to get the bulk of the carries. But Harlem Berry's going to get on the field this season. I feel fairly confident that the trajectory he's heading in right now, he's going to get real significant playing time. He's going to get a handful of touches each game where they're going to find a way to get him the ball in open field, as well as let him develop as a running back, because that's been a big thing too. The phrase that Brian Kelly keeps using is to get a coat of armor on him,
right?
Which is code for he's running between the tackles is going to be problematic in an SEC defense against an SEC defense right now, just because he just doesn't have the weight.
Right.
But the development he's having from a vision standpoint is really promising, it seems, that he's willing to develop in that way. And if he can round that part of his game out, then the sky is the limit. If he can do it physically, then that would be unbelievable. And you talked about speed. There is something... We're in the field of recruiting, right? In high school recruiting and all the star stuff, and people argue, well, is this person 5-star or 4-star? These practices, you could feel the difference between a 5-star and a 4-star. The two 5-star guys out there are DJ and Harlem. DJ Pickett looks different. I just want to take one moment to go back to it. That it just...
He looks like he's a sophomore, junior already developed right now to a star.
He's not getting first team reps yet. I don't know how long that's going to last.
Yeah.
It feels like we're heading in a direction where he's got to get on the field.
He's just too good to keep off the field.
He's just too good to keep off the field. And I think they're going to start feeling the same way, and they already start feeling the same way about Harlem. And that makes me really excited for when JT Lindsey gets on the field in the summer.
Yeah,
because
that's another back.
I got a chance to see Harlem and JT both play in high school last year during the fall. And it felt like they were a clear tier above everybody else in a loaded running back class for Louisiana this past year. It felt like JT was closer to Harlem than he was to the rest of the group. So, as great as Harlem is, I can't wait to see what the takeaways are in the summer and the fall when JT Lindsey finally gets on the field. I think that'll be really exciting. I think this running back room, as young as it is, and it's really young, I think they're going to develop a lot throughout the year, and I think this run game, because that's one of the big takeaways from this last season for LSU, right? That the run game felt, you had Caden Durham and that was it. It's young, but I think they're going to develop throughout this year, and I think it's going to be really promising.
Following up with speed, right, I am really excited to see what the return game is going to look like for LSU, because you have options galore, right? I mean, last year you saw what Xavier Thomas could do with the ball in his hands, and he was a really positive, had positive impact on special teams. You know, like, what was the time he was with a break one? He always had like some really nice returns. So it was like he's going to end up breaking what he did against Baylor, return a kickoff return for a touchdown there. Aaron Anderson, we saw him return a kickoff return for a touchdown against Oklahoma. Barron Brown comes in. He set an SEC record for kickoff returns for touchdowns. So who you going to put out there, and that battle is going to be really fun to watch. We know those three receivers. You got Chris Helton, Trey Green over the middle of the field. It's going to be really fun to watch. They put them on the outside too, and then you added the other transfer receivers as well, like Garrett Nussmeier said. That's Dustin Hill. They call him Fat. And I was like, who's Destin? That's like his name's Fat. So like that's just a good thing they give him. But they got a lot of options offensively, and it's gonna be fun for them to work with all these toys. Like I mentioned the Garrett offensively. We got all this speed, all these playmakers that have the ability to take a play to the house, and all those guys can do it. So that's gonna be really fun to watch.
Yeah, you got the Legion of Zoom out there, it feels like.
Yeah, Legion of Zoom.
That old Chiefs offense before they've kind of moved away from that, and maybe Trey Green becomes that like Travis Kelce role over the middle at some point. That move tight end that just is the reliable option in the middle. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. You have a really fun group of players, and you have the quarterback to throw it to them. So I think that's going to be a really exciting thing to see how that develops. And you've got a lot of time. And this is a team that has the expectations. And this is a team that is it feels really good. We'll see. This is my first time covering them. I don't know how it felt like last year. I don't know what the expectations felt like on the field last year, but it feels different now. And it kind of all circles back to Garrett in a way. You got a chance to talk to him, and you got a chance to ask him a couple of questions. It's his second year. And I think at this point, there's a little bit of a feeling of what that means for an LSU quarterback now. We got to see Jaden Daniels. We got to see Joe Burrow. It feels like the bar is just so high that you have to clear if you want to be what I think a lot of fans are expecting. It feels like an insurmountable goal to try to hit. What do you feel like from Garrett's perspective, or what your perspective on Garrett and how that is developing with him?
Yeah, I mean he's definitely he embraces it. You know, he doesn't run away. He doesn't run away from it. I mean, he understands. He is a coach's son. I mean, Don Nussmeier has been the coach of the NFL for a long time. He was the offensive coordinator at Alabama. You know, he was with the Cowboys. He was with the Eagles recently. He played quarterback for the Saints, you know. So, like, he knows exactly what this is like. And just growing up in that football family, you can tell that he understands his role. And he understands what it's like at LSU. He grew up an LSU fan, so he understands the role. And he just like everybody else, he knows the expectations with this offense and what they can do. And really for him, just the ability to, let his players be those type of players, right?
Mm-hmm.
He likes to go for the deep shot. We all know that. He likes to go for the deep ball. But just understanding, like, hey, let me just throw the short slant. Let Aaron Anderson, he threw a short slant to Aaron Anderson against Texas A&M last year. Ran for a touchdown. Let his athletes be athletes. Don't put so much of the shoulders. Don't put so much of the workload on yourself. Just make the right decision. You got playmakers around you. Let them be the guys that make those plays. I think he's really understood that role, going into the offseason. So, but Garrett Nussmeier, a lot of expectations. A lot of people have him high on the Heisman boards. Like they expect that year 1 to year 2. Do I expect it to be a Joe Burrow-esque? Do I expect it to be Jay Daniels? Like, that's going to be tough to do, but do I expect him to make a big jump? I do. I really do from year 1, year 2. And really, statistically, he was better than what those quarterbacks were in their first year. So, to me, it's going to really come down to the offensive line. Now, going to the offseason, there's not as much expectations as last year's offensive line was, but this actually might help this group. Maybe they can just kind of fly under the radar, and they've struggled at times. Run blocking, and this might be a team that does a better job of run blocking. If they can run the football and take that pressure off of Garrett Nussmeier, that will help this offense a whole lot. And we got to see what the offensive line combination was going to be too. So from the spring practice first week, now Josh Thompson is going to be joining the team in a couple weeks. He is going to be a projected star once he comes here after he finishes his classes at Northwestern. But Tyree Adams, you totally expect him to be one of the starting tackles for LSU. He was the third guy behind Emery, behind Will Campbell last year. You expect him to take that next step up. Paul Bumega is a guy we see it every now and then coming to the games. So he is at left guard. They still have DJ Chester at center. He was the starting center last year, but is there an opportunity for him to move to guard? There really is, because of Braylon Moore coming in, Virginia Tech transfer who started at center. He could move to guard. Then you got Bo Bordelon. He's played a little bit. And then you have Weston Davis at tackle. That's their first starting unit. And then the second team unit, you have Carius Curtin, a very talented guy. Solomon Thomas, he's a highly recruited offensive lineman that's looked really good as a freshman. Braylon Moore is the center. Cohen Eccles at right guard. And Ethan Callaway at right tackle. So see what this offensive line looks like. That's going to be really the biggest key, really offensively. We know about Garrett Nussmeier. We know about the skill weapons. We know what we got. As good as this offense can be, is going to come down to that starting five up front.
Ultimately, we talked about the run game and how that could potentially develop and grow. That starts with the O-line. That, whether it's Caden Durham or Caleb Jackson or Harlem Berry, whoever it ends up being, that starts with an offensive line that can run block. And if they can do that, then that enables all of the speed on the outside and Garrett Nussmeier's cannon to do what they can do best. And I thought the offensive line was interesting throughout the week. Obviously we didn't get a lot of competition with the O-line and D-line, and the defensive front seven is probably the general position group that we can have the fewest takeaways from in the spring.
Yeah.
Because
we haven't seen too much of it. Right.
Well, also their three biggest starters are all missing the spring.
Yep.
There's no Whit Weeks, there's no Harold Perkins, there's no Jacoby and Guillory. Right. So it's going to look really different once we get to the summer. So in the fall. So we'll see what that ends up looking like. But we can get takeaways from the offensive line rotation. And so on Saturday, I got to see a little bit more of that. Braylon Moore is already starting to work in at center a little bit more, kicking DJ Chester out to guard, I mean.
Right.
We got to see a couple of the true freshman guards you mentioned, Cohen Eccles and I'm blanking on the other name, but the two guards.
Solomon Thomas.
No, the other one.
Okay. Carius Curtin.
Carius Curtin,
yep.
yes. Carius Curtin and Cohen Eccles, I apologize. The two true freshman guards working in a little bit, those first team and second team kind of blending together on Saturday. But my big takeaway was from Weston Davis. So this is going to be his first year starting. he just looks different.
Oh, he's like 6'8".
He looks like a basketball player out there.
Oh yeah,
it's like him and Trey'Dez Green. You feel like you could get some fun pickup games from them.
Yep.
And I think it's interesting sometimes how we talk about all these recruits, right? Harlem Berry and DJ Pickett, and the first year they're here, everyone can talk about because they're new, right? But sometimes and we're talking about Trey'Dez Green now because he just popped off in the bowl game, right? So there's a lot of hype around him. But Weston Davis was a big recruit last year. And so he sits for a year behind, the most hyped tackle duo in the history of tackle duos. And now he's the starting right tackle. It looks like he's going to lock that job down from everything we can tell.
Right.
And he looks the part, and I'm really excited to see how he develops there and what he can turn into going into this year. And you're talking about ceilings. I feel like he has one of the highest ceilings of anybody on that offensive line group. And if he turns into the next Emory Jones, the next Will Campbell, this long line of LSU offensive linemen that look the part. We talk about looking the part on the defensive line. The offensive line has looked the part.
Yeah.
And if he can become that can be a huge part of this offensive line, enabling everything around them. And I think that'll be really important for LSU moving forward, and the development of him in particular is something that I'm really excited for.
We all know what Brad Davis has done recruiting, and recruiting all those guys in. I mean, he brought in Emory and Will and guys like that. Seeing how this group develops, I think it's going to be a really feathered his cap if he's able to do that this year, really show what he can do as a developer, especially if this group ends up really overachieving this year, going according to expectations. Receivers, we talked about it earlier. Kyle Parker is a guy that with all these fancy toys, and I can't phrase I keep on saying, but it really is. I mean, they got a lot of speed, a lot of ability, right, to make a lot of big plays, to have a touchdown weight every single play. But Kyle Parker is a guy we kind of gets lost in the shuffle a little bit. This is a guy that was getting starting reps last year, and a lot of times, and then he actually caught a touchdown against UCLA last year, and then that's when they had the tricep injury, and he's still in a non-contact jersey as well, so see how he fits. But you look at that, Chris Hilton, you look at Aaron Anderson, Barry Brown, Destin Hill, Kyle Parker. You have about, and now with tight end, add tight ends too, you have about 9 or 10 receivers that can really throw the football to. So LSU is wide receiver you expect it to be, and Xavier Thomas as well. I mentioned Xavier Thomas, so they got a lot of weapons, and seeing how they incorporate them in the spring in the screen game, right, in the short passing game, not only the deep part of the game. LSU made a lot of explosive plays downfield. They're in the ball deep, but they weren't really, I felt as efficient, with the underneath game and intermediate game, and that's something they can incorporate a lot more to give this offense another step for this year.
Absolutely. There was a lot of talk about the vertical passing game getting developed. We know they're going to have speed. The question is, which of these 5 different guys that run 4.4 or whatever.
Right.
They're all fast, but if you're going to be an elite wide receiver, there's more to it than that. You have to be able to be a more nuanced route runner, and we're going to see which ones rise to that occasion and become the next line in wide receiver U, right? Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors, Jamar Chase, all the names. And the reason those guys became what they are is because they were super fast, and they added another thing. Justin Jefferson's hands, Jamar Chase's, he's just amazing after the catch, whatever it ends up being. And so we'll see what that is. Is Chris Hilton's breakout in the bowl game? Does he become the number one guy?
Right.
You talked about this last year about how many reps he had with Garrett Nussmeier as backups for such a long time, and they're back. Can he stay healthy?
That's the biggest thing.
Is it one of these transfers that comes in and immediately there's some kind of rapport? We'll see what that grows into, but it's a full. I'm really excited for this wide receiver room because you get to do something that we very rarely get to see in college football now with the transfer portal, and that's stacking talent on top of talent on top of talent. And your spot isn't secure because there are 5 other guys who are just as talented as you.
Yeah.
And we're going to see, right now we have no clue who the starters are going to be.
Yeah.
Because the starters at the beginning were the 3 guys that are the biggest names that are back because of seniority.
Those are the guys you expect because they were your guys last year, but you're going to see it's going to be interchangeable. You'll see a lot of different guys get opportunities to get those because after all of those guys need those reps with Garrett Nussmeier.
Absolutely, and we're going to see that change throughout the spring. We might see a different starting 3 by the end of the spring, and then we might see a different starting 3 by the beginning of fall, and then by week 1 it might be a different starting 3. And I think we're going to see a lot of receivers rotate, and whoever becomes that number 1 guy, I think there's a good chance one of them rises to the occasion of being this elite option. I think there's a chance for that to happen because we've seen it happen over and over and over again at LSU. And I can't wait to see what ends up occurring.
We talked a lot about the players, right? But there's some new coaches we need to talk about as well. I mean, Joe Sloan has been there. This is a big year I feel like, for both coordinators. Not only Joe Sloan, but Blake Baker as well, because they go to another year as coordinators. So that's going to be big. And there's also the new coaches that come in as well. Alex Atkins is the tight ends coach. I don't think we talked about Coach Atkins enough. Comes in from Florida State. Comes in as a tight ends coach. Now he gets to work with Trey Nez. He gets to work with Bauer Sharp. Donovan Green coming from Texas A&M. Gets to work with those guys. And then you also, the biggest name, right? Kyle Williams, right? He gets to work, the former LSU Tiger gets to work with the defensive line. The defensive line the last couple of years with Brian Kelly, it's been a carousel. It's been a different guy. A lot of times in the same season, it's been different guys. And now you're just trying to stabilize that. You thought you had it with Bo Davis. That was a big hire, but he comes in after 1 year. Takes a job right down the road with the New Orleans Saints. Now you're back in the same situation. Who can we get at a short amount of time with spring football coming up? Get a guy like Kyle Williams, right? Now he has proven as a college assistant coach, a position coach, but we know his track record because of what he did on the field, right? 6-time Pro Bowler, 13-year veteran, All-American at LSU, national champion at LSU. He was a rusted defensive coordinator the last couple of years. It actually helped develop Ahmad Bro. So Ahmad Bro and Kyle Williams reunite there, and Ahmad is supposed to be a projected starter on the inside as well. So Kyle Williams working with the defensive line. I don't think a lot of people have any questions about that because we know what kind of pedigree he brings from a technique standpoint because of all of the years he was a top player in the NFL. Now I can translate that with the players he's young enough to. Recruiting, that's going to be kind of like the question mark. How does he do that there because he's never recruited? I think that's the biggest question mark. But a lot of signs are pointing up when we talk about Kyle Williams.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like, as someone who's it's hard to grade this early, but it feels like a slam dunk in many ways. He has the pedigree, he has the experience. I don't think there's going to be much of a question about relatability with the players. Who else would you respect more than the guy who is one of the most decorated Buffalo Bills of all time, right? And one of the most decorated, most importantly, LSU Tigers.
Right.
He's one of the most successful defensive linemen to ever step through this campus. Who else would you want to learn from? So we're talking about recruiting. There are questions around that, but I'm not super worried about it because, I mean, who else would relate better to the next Ahmad Bro, the next Jacoby Engel, whoever ends up being the recruits in this 26 class that they're going after. And so I absolutely agree that Kyle Williams is going to be a big. It was a big get. It was a big deal, I think. And
especially the limited time they needed to go out and get somebody. I thought it was a really good hire.
I thought it was a really, really good hire, and we'll see that for a defensive line room that the depth will be hopefully improved in stopping the run, especially against dual threat quarterbacks. Hopefully, we'll see that. Again, we have the top 3 players in that front are gone for the spring. We'll get to see who can step up and become guys that when one of them goes down, because it's football, injuries happen. who is going to step up, and we'll see that progress throughout the spring as well. Hopefully on Tuesday you'll get a better chance to see that a little bit more when we get into like full time and stuff like that.
Yeah, we see more of the offensive rotation through our first week of practice more than the defense in terms of rotations, and people wondering about that. So don't have much on the rotation. We see a lot of bag drills and sled drills and stuff with the defensive line, and just getting off blocks. They're working on a lot of technique stuff right now with the linebackers and the defensive line, and a guy I really like a lot is Kevin Peoples. As a defensive, he's an ends coach. So Kyle Williams is going to work with the interior defensive line. Kevin Peoples going to work with the defensive ends, and I loved what he did with Savion Jones and Brandon Swinson last year. Really did with how he was able to work with those guys and really get the most out of them. And now you have really arguably a more talented edge rushers coming in. When we talk about Patrick Payton, the three transfers too, and I like Gabriel Relaford coming in as well. Gabriel Relaford played a whole lot, former Evangel Christian Eagle as well, and he was part of the 2 deep. I expect him to be part of the 2 deep as well. So I think the edge rush is going to be really impressive this year as well. So that's what I'm looking forward to see. Linebackers. Like you said, we're not going to see Harold Perkins, we're not going to see Whit Weeks, and you're not expected to see those linebackers, right, until fall camp. But gives an opportunity for other linebackers to work. Got a chance to talk to West. Witt's brother, so West is getting a lot of looks, and a key guy is Devon Keys. Devon Keys was a guy who was a Ground Football Player of the Year finalist when he played, and really got a lot of really good stuff late in the season. Got a lot of playing time because of the injury to Harold Perkins. Got inserted in the lineup probably quicker than they wanted to be, but he got a lot of playing time, and by the end of the season he was playing really great. He had a pick 6 against Baylor. So really the defensive front seven, there's a lot of expectations. Especially the biggest thing is, can this group stay healthy, notably Perk and Weeks, and see how that defensive front continues to improve.
Yeah, it's. I think it'll be really exciting to finally get what Weeks kind of had his breakout last year, right? And of course, Perkins is a name that we've known since the first year Kelly got there, right? In 2022, when he had the breakout against Arkansas, we're trying to see if he can, return to that kind of production at some point. I'm excited to see them both on the field together. In that way, it's like these two mega stars almost in this little bubble. Getting to see them together in the same linebacking group, I think is going to be really fun. And so, that's just one of the many things that I'm really excited to see once we get to the fall and all of that stuff. But for now, we've got the spring, and we're 1 week in, and we're a third of the way through. There's still a lot to learn, so I'm excited to see where this goes.
How many times have you seen this? A trio of brothers on the same field? Because keep in mind that the little brother's coming. So Zach. So you got Whit, Wes, and Zach's coming in the fall. So how many times have you seen 3 brothers on one team at one time?
Did they run out of W names in the family?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, you got, I guess it went to Z. I mean, it's hard to find any names with X and Y, right? So might as well skip that, go to the Z.
We have Whit Weeks, West Weeks, and Xylon Weeks. But you're absolutely right that this is an exciting family to have all 3 of them, and we've seen Whit already, so we'll see what we get from Wes and Zach eventually as well. I think Wes might be starting to work into that rotation, especially with Whit and Harold gone right now.
Yeah, with the 4-2, I mean, right now it would be West and Devon would get those starter reps. So with them being out, but that's West has played a lot. Devon has really that was a good thing. If there's not great things to have injuries, but if there is a positive, get guys like Devon to develop. And for him to get a lot of playing time, that's going to really help this Tigers defense. And that was great for him to get a lot of playing time down the road. And then secondary, we have to end it with DB, right? Or, it's been a while since LSU has been really respectfully monitored that. But you bring Corey Raymond back last year. That was huge to try to get back to being what LSU fans want LSU to be. That is DBU. And now this group has improved last year. Really, the issues was not in the passing game. It was the quarterback run game. That is what really killed LSU last year. But this defense did improve with their pass defense, and Ashton Stamps is back. So you assume that he will be quarterback 1. Now, quarterback 2, DJ Pickett could be a big guy for that. And what shot me he would be a starter against Clemson week 1. But you also have P.J. Woodland. P.J. Woodland is back as well. And you have other options, too, that could play quarterback. Mansur Dalot as well.
Yeah.
So I feel pretty good about the quarterbacks. To me, the question mark is going to be the safeties. What do the safeties really look like? Now, I think at the press conference that you were at, Brian Kelly was also asked about Jordan Gilbert. Mm-hmm. And then Jordan Gilbert was also going to be out for spring football. So this is the opportunity for other safeties to get a look. I know you got the transfer to Marcus Cooley from NC State for him to work safety. They're working Javian Toviano as well at safety. I'm really high on Deshaun Spears from those Springs too. So to me, I feel pretty good about the quarterbacks. It's the safeties. What kind of productivity we'll get from the safeties going into this year.
Yeah, and I think safety is a position, and Kelly talked about this a lot about you have two different kind of brands of safeties almost. You have especially when you have those safeties that are playing nickel, where you have the coverage ones versus the ones that are able to play against the run a little bit more effectively. And I think when you have a defense that was so weak against the quarterback run last year, and the nightmares of Marcel Reed and Jalen Milroe, I think still kind of, and DJ Lagway still kind of emanate in our minds a little bit as fans and reporters and all of that. I think seeing safeties that can tackle, and he talked about the safeties, the importance of that, and how the senior presence, Jordan Gilbert coming back, can be important as a run-stopping safety, and how the safeties can, if you have safeties that can do that alongside a cornerback room that I think is really promising with Stamps and Pickett and Delane and
right.
all of them, that could have a lot of competition and guys fighting for reps. If you have safeties that can tackle and play in the box, I think that'll be really important. And I think that is going to lead us to a team that hopefully a defense that looks better against the quarterback run and against various things. So,
right. Well, this is basically like your extended practice report. We're able to have 3 of them on the website. If you want to read more about what the Tigers are able to do, make sure to go to our website, gridironfootballusa.com. This week, not too much to really go into. We'll have one extended practice to give you an update on. Tomorrow, I'll return back and give you some updates for LSU tomorrow. Or I guess depending on what you're watching this video, this is Wednesday is when we always have the Chase with Jace. So that should be yesterday by the time you're actually watching this. But the Tuesday practice report will be on the website at gridironfootballusa.com. That'll be the only practice we'll go to this week. Is actually the only other time we'll be available to go to a practice. This week will be Saturday. Of course, we're going to be up at Shreveport for our next Gridiron Football League camp, which, by the way, if there's any players watching, if you're in the area, make sure to sign up for the camp coming up. You can sign up before Saturday or Friday. Save you $25 as well. So make sure to sign up for that camp and get some work in. Get yourself on Gridiron Football's radar as well. Alex, any final thoughts? It's just what you thought about just overall being able to go and cover LSU practice for a couple of practices.
Yeah, I mean it was a great privilege to get a chance to do that, and they were. Like I said, very professional. It was really accommodating, all of that sort of stuff. But it was just, I grew up in South Louisiana, and I grew up a big LSU fan, and so getting a chance to be on the field and to watch one of those practices, it was really exciting. I really enjoyed it, getting that chance to do that, and hopefully, anytime you have other official business you need to take care of, I'd be happy to fill in if I have the chance to do so. So, I really enjoyed it, and getting a chance to talk about it here was also really, really fun to do. Absolutely.
Well, Alex, appreciate you hopping on with me today on the Chase with Jace. And yeah, guys, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure to go to our website, gridironfootballusa.com, where it's all football all the time. And guys, we'll make sure to see y'all on next Wednesday for another practice report and for some more interviews, some more content. Make sure to go to gridironfootballusa.com. We'll see y'all next time on another edition of the Chase with Jace.